Meeting of the Senate Finance Committee for March 15th will come to order. We do not yet have a quorum, but we'll begin. I think we'll be getting a quorum very shortly. And we have two bills on the agenda. The first one we're going to take up is Senator Morrison's Environmental Natural Resources Trust Fund appropriations. Welcome to the Finance Committee, and please begin your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to be here.
Mr. Chair, members, I'm pleased to present Senate File 442, which is the annual Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources and Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund bill, and includes funding for 83 environmental and natural resources projects across the state. The projects are the recommendation of the 17-member Joint Commission and were developed in a bipartisan and bicameral way over the past year. We worked hard as a commission this year on our evaluation and selection process and tried a few new approaches to ensure we could reach agreement. As a result, we secured more than the needed 12-member supermajority support and offer a bill that includes a diversity of projects ranging from research to environmental education to land protection to creation of local park and trail amenities. And I do have LCCMR staff, Director Becca Nash and Mike Campana here to do a brief walkthrough of the bill.
Thank you very much. Is there any? Well, we'll just go ahead, Ms. Nash. Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself and move ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. I'm Becca Nash. I'm the director of the LCCMR. And as Senator Morrison said, this is the annual LCCMR recommendations bill. Article 1 consists of funding recommendations, and I can go through those provisions at a high level and focusing on the financials. And then Article 2 is some policy recommendations that for ENRTF funding following a directive from the legislature last year, and my colleague Mike Campana can walk through those. So the funding for projects in Article 1 amount to $79,833,000. Those are primarily from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, which is a permanent fund created in the state treasury that was created by voters through constitutional amendment to support activities that protect, conserve, preserve, and enhance Minnesota's air, water, land, fish, wildlife, and other natural resources. We also had $189,000 from the Great Lakes Protection Account. This account collects earnings from the endowment created by the Great Lakes states in the 1980s to address ecological problems of the largest single source of fresh water in the world. By law, appropriations from the Great Lakes Protection Account must be recommended by the LCCMR for projects to protect water quality in the Great Lakes. We received 174 proposals this year, requesting approximately $164 million. As Senator Morrison stated, through LCCMR's multi-step competitive process, the Commission selected 83 projects for recommendation to the legislature. These projects fall within priority categories of the Commission, and each of those has its own subdivision, and these are subdivisions 3 through 10, and are the following. And I should say we also provided a handout, so if you have would like a sort of a quick check, here's a spreadsheet in the first page, lists out how many appropriations and how much funding in each of those subdivisions. So subdivision 3 is foundational natural resources data and information. There are 19 recommendations in this subdivision totaling $8.219 million. Subdivision 4 is water resources. There are 13 recommendations in this subdivision totaling $8.328 million. And it's in this section that there's a project in paragraph E that funds microplastic particle research in Lake Superior, and that is the project that's receiving the Great Lakes Protection Account funding. Subdivision 5 is environmental education. There are 8 recommendations in this subdivision totaling $3.905 million. Subdivision 6 is aquatic and terrestrial invasive species. There are 2 recommendations in this subdivision totaling $5.14 million. Subdivision 7 is air quality, climate change, and renewable energy. There are 6 recommendations in this subdivision totaling $3.913 million. Subdivision 8 is methods to protect or restore land, water, and habitat. There are 18 recommendations in that subdivision totaling $15.997 million. Subdivision 9 is land acquisition, habitat, and recreation. There are 15 recommendations in that subdivision totaling $31.241 million. And then subdivision 10 includes a couple additional provisions, including for administration and emerging issues. And this is 4 recommendations totaling $3.126 million. Beyond the appropriations, subdivisions 11 through 17 are conditions of funding, and these typically go along with our appropriations every year, and this year's bill does not include any changes from prior years. Subdivision 18 are carry forwards, so previously funded projects that just need a little bit of extra time to complete. And then section 3 and 4 are technical changes to 2 appropriations from last year. I'm happy to answer any questions about the projects. Otherwise, I would hand it off to my colleague, Mike Campana, to go over Article 2.
Thank you, and let the record reflect the quorum is present. Are any questions for Ms. Nash on the first article? If not, Mr. Campana, you want to go ahead with Article 2?
Thank you, Chair Marty. Mike Campana, I'm a senior project analyst with the LCCMR.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Sure. Mike Campana, senior project analyst with the LCCMR. Article 2 reflects recommendations made by the LCCMR to improve the consideration and oversight of capital construction projects. At the end of last session, the legislature had requested the commission to look into that and to produce a report for the legislature. Over the summer, the commission formed a subcommittee. That subcommittee looked at various requirements that apply to other capital projects funded from other state sources and considered those and used those as the basis for their recommendations. In making the recommendations, the commission did its best to balance the extra burden that might place on applicants and recipients of funds with the additional safety and reduction of risk that the new requirements would provide. So just to talk briefly about the requirements, there are actually only 2 new requirements that are contained in Article 2. There are a number of other provisions that reference current requirements that would apply to capital projects currently funded through the ERTF. So Section 3, Subdivision 1 contains a full funding requirement that require all funds needed to complete a capital construction project or phase must be secured prior to appropriated ERTF dollars becoming available. This is similar to current requirements that apply to capital projects funded from state GO bonds. Section 3, Subdivision 2 would require recipients of ERTF funds to ensure that their project complies with sustainable building guidelines, including energy conservation standards. This has been part of appropriation rider language for ERTF appropriations for at least the last 10 years. It's also similar to requirements that apply to projects that receive GO bonds. Moving on, Section 3, Subdivision 5, provides reference to other current statutory requirements that apply to capital construction projects funded from the ERTF. References relate to statutory provisions for consultation and review, such as pre-design and historic and archaeological review, contracting, purchasing, and wages, energy use and conservation, and accessibility. And then just a final couple quick notes regarding what the commission recommended. The commission's recommendations as reflected in the bill, if adopted, would only apply to proposals submitted in 2024. Those would be the first projects that need to comply with this requirements. That way, if these are adopted, all applicants would know these in advance. The second is the commission did want to make sure that it's only applied to construction of something with total costs of $10,000 or more. So not purchases of capital equipment unrelated to construction or most land acquisitions. And with that, I think I'm going to conclude my remarks.
Thank you. Are there questions from members of the committee? Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick clarifying question. So we're spending or appropriating nearly $80 million out of the Environmental Trust Fund. I'm curious, what's the current balance?
Mr. Chair and members, I believe the current balance is about $1.45 billion.
There's Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. If I could ask the director a question on the rice research. I understand there's nothing in this bill for rice research. Was there something in the last bill that we had, and is that still ongoing, or can you explain what's happening with that?
Ms. Nash.
Mr. Chair and members, In the laws of 2022, there was a project that was funded. I believe the funding went to the State Department of Natural Resources, and it was to do consultation with the tribes and to develop some protocols for creating a statewide wild rice monitoring system and a database to collect that information. So that was in laws of 2022, or I'm sorry, 2021, I apologize, 2021, and that project is still underway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Follow-up.
Go ahead.
Could you tell me, previously, did we do some rice research projects that were ongoing? Prior to this bill here, did we do some rice research projects through LCCMR that were ongoing?
Mr. Chair and members, I'm not aware of any other projects that are currently ongoing. I think there have been some wild rice projects in the past, but I believe those have concluded at this time.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, follow-up.
Go ahead.
Could you tell me, were there any applications this year for wild rice projects?
Mr. Chair and members, I just did a quick search, and I didn't see any from the application process that led to the build today. So I can do a double check and follow up with you afterwards to make sure, but I do not recall a wild rice research project.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair Marty. I just had a question on 13.31. Kind of what is that program? Biophobia and fostering environmental stewardship in underserved schools. So just wondering if you could explain what that is and what we're trying to accomplish here.
Ms. Nash.
Mr. Chair and members, I think this is just a shorthand way of explaining that some people, especially in this appropriation, we're talking about children who maybe have grown up in an urban area, have not had a chance to be exposed to outdoors, and have a fear of, being in a wide open lake or in a forest. That can be kind of scary for people, and especially in this appropriation, we're talking about raptors. And of course, it's important that we all have a healthy amount of fear of wild animals, but I think in this project, they're thinking about introducing raptors to children and kind of getting over the fear part and moving more into inspiring awe and appreciation for nature so that kids can develop an ethic for the outdoors and see the value in protecting it.
Further questions from the committee? Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair Marty. And then I had one more question. Not serving on this committee, it's all new to me, so I apologize. On page 30, can you just explain the emerging issues and what that's typically used for on 30.7?
Ms. Nash, go ahead.
Mr. Chair and members, there is statute that allows for the LCCMR to create an emerging issues account, and that is intended for projects that come up unexpectedly between funding cycles. So it gives the LCCMR ability to respond to those in kind of quick action as needed. Applicants still need to make a proposal to the LCCMR, and to approve funding for an emerging issues, it requires a vote of at least 12 LCCMR members of the 17, as well as approval from the governor.
Senator Draheim.
Thank you. And just the dollar amount, is that typical? And then can you give me an example of some of the other emerging issues that have come up that you have funded in the past?
Ms. Nash.
Mr. Chair and Senator Draheim, the amount varies from year to year. This is not necessarily an unusual level. As with any appropriations, if it's not used, it gets canceled back to the trust fund. Past emerging issues funding have been used for chronic wasting disease, for avian flu, for algal blooms. I'm just trying to think. Do you recall anything? I think that's
The energy project.
Oh, there was a specific, a prior year's emerging issues funding was kind of earmarked for renewable energy demonstration projects on wastewater treatment plants, and that one has been awarded and is underway. But typically, they're just for any emerging issues that we might not anticipate, and that comes before the LCCMR.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? If not, Senator Murphy moves that Senate File 442 be recommended to pass. Any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Members.
Senator Morrison and LCCMR staff.
Thank you.
Next bill on the agenda is Senate File 1622, Senator Frentz, State Competitiveness Fund.
You never know, they might have questions.
Go ahead, Senator Frentz, when you're ready.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. Very proud to present bipartisan bill, Senate File 1622, the State Competitiveness Fund and Matching Grants Program. As members are well aware, the IIJA and IRA provided billions of dollars in the clean energy sector. It's estimated as much as $2 billion may come to Minnesota over the next decade. And what Senate File 1622 does is establish through the Department of Commerce a State Competitiveness Fund. As you know, the Department of Commerce supervises our energy portfolio. And Senate File 1622 appropriates, once I amend it, that is, Mr. Chair, funds to be part of the state's competitiveness matching grants. And with that, Mr. Chair, I would like to start by offering the A6 amendment.
Okay, on the A6 amendment, which should be in your packets. Senator Frentz, why don't you go ahead if you want to explain the amendment or if you want somebody else.
I do, Mr. Chair,
Okay.
I really do. Members, the original bill sought $140 million for the first allotment to the state's competitiveness fund. You may be surprised and even pleased to know that the A6 amendment reduces that amount to $100 million. There's a couple reasons for this. First of all, in looking at the overall budgeting, always important, Mr. Chair, to keep the big picture in mind. We agreed to say that $100 million for the State Competitiveness Fund would make more sense, understanding that alongside other jurisdictions, we would be seeking additional funding later. The expediency also allows us to say to our counterparts in the other body who may hear this on the floor in its exact same form as soon as tomorrow, that will match up entirely. It does not prevent us from making arguments that additional matching grants will be beneficial. It is in no way a signal that we don't see the importance. And in case you had this question in the back of your mind, Mr. Chair, I think there are good faith arguments that a total of $200 million might be beneficial to the state matching funds by the time this is all done and shakes out. With that, Mr. Chair, I would offer the A6 amendment.
Is there any further discussion on the A6 amendment? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? By a 1-0 vote, the motion prevails.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As amended, members, again, this is a bipartisan bill, and here's exactly what's going to happen. Under the IIJA and the IRA, cities, counties, utilities, co-ops, nonprofits, all can seek clean energy matching funds. There are over 20 categories where these clean energy grants are available, and in those categories include things like clean energy generation, infrastructure, transmission. And the federal government's made available these funds statewide. I don't mind pointing out that other states are well ahead of us, Mr. Chair, in appropriating these matching funds. And as you may know from our work here on the Finance Committee, we want Minnesota to compete effectively and fiercely for federal dollars. So an example would be a community that has a renewable energy project where the federal match is 50-50. They can apply for that, pointing in their application to the fact that the state of Minnesota has approved this funding and these grants. That allows the application to be more competitive, and hopefully we can be seen favorably when compared with states like Michigan, who's receiving a lot of attention for being well out in front of us on the timing of this. A couple features of the bill. There are caps per project of 15 million, and there's technical assistance. Technical assistance should be very important to those of us that represent small and underrepresented communities. Here's why. The average town of 1,000 doesn't have a grant writer sitting at City Hall prepared to write federal grants. The Department of Commerce is in a perfect position to offer assistance where necessary, what we would call technical assistance, so that whether you're from North Mankato or Grand Rapids, these grants can allow support, expertise, technical assistance to come to make that grant application competitive. Many of these can be 70, 80 pages long, and that assistance is referenced with a cap of 300,000 each per community. This is envisioned to go out not only to cities and counties and utilities, but nonprofits and any other organization which is eligible for any of the under or over 24 grant parts. A couple things to keep in mind, and then I'll be happy to stand for questions, Mr. Chair. The bill requires that 75 million of these funds be appropriated for grants of $1 million or less. In other words, Mr. Chair, we're saying that the smallest entities, those that often need the most support and those that are often found in areas of Minnesota with less expertise, will receive that amount of the funding. In other words, we're ordering, in the language of the bill, for small projects to receive some special set aside. Also, we're talking about letters of support, which are in your packets, members, but for this particular bill, there's a wide coalition of labor, of energy, of the communities themselves, of nonprofits, from the business community, all of them saying, hey, let's pass this. And I won't read the list to you, but it's surprisingly lengthy. It does mirror some of the groups that were in support of the 100% clean energy bill by 2040. Now, in addition to what we might think of as traditional renewable energy, wind and solar, there are grants available for more innovation. A couple just to put on your radar, members, because I bet you will hear about this again in the future. Hydrogen, battery storage. There's innovation we're looking at with iron-based battery storage that may provide up to 100 hours. For those of you following reliability issues in our utility sector, 100 hours of storage is a game changer. Right now, lithium batteries allow us to maybe store for 3 or 4 hours, which, while helpful, would not prevent the kind of reliability crises that we're looking at. I have, of course, 2 talented testifiers here, although I think they're both just hoping to answer questions. But if not, Mr. Chair, that sort of summarizes the gist of it. And just to be clear, the House chair, the chair of the other body said that it may come to the floor of the other body as soon as tomorrow, but that is not final. I just meant to impress upon members, this is happening, and we want to get this out the door and have our great state start competing for these grants and thumping the other states in competitiveness, like Michigan. We should thump them, I think. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there questions from the committee to Senator Draheim?
Thank you, Chair Marty, and thank you, Senator Frentz, for bringing this forward. What is the administrative cost to this and program cost to set it up?
We're setting the amount at 6 months.
Senator Frentz or Mr. Mueller, whoever wants to go ahead.
Here's what happened. Mr. Mueller just gave me the answer, but in the bill, Senator Draheim, thank you for the question, $6,750,000 is the total for the technical assistance. I wasn't sure if you meant the percentage and if there's a cap, and for that I would go back to Mr. Mueller, but don't mean to put words in your mouth, Senator Draheim. Maybe that wasn't your question.
Mr. Mueller.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Draheim, the A6 amendment actually deleted language in the bill that had a 5% cap, and it instead inserted a set dollar amount of $6.75 million. This is for technical assistance and to applicants and administration of the statutes. And I don't know if the department.
Mr. Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, John Kelly, Director of Government Affairs for the Department of Commerce. To Mr. Chair and Senator Draheim. So there's the $6.75 million. That is for the technical assistance team and admin within there. There's also $1.5 million for IT, and there is $750,000 for independent audit. That is the combined. It's about $9 million for admin for the program. It's our understanding that the most of this work is going to take the first 4 years to 5 years, and then we'll taper off. So that's why it's stacked at the front end with the technical support teams. And then there is the funding for the local capacity grant development grants to munis, co-ops, and other entities to not just have it at the state, but also out in the community.
Follow-up? Thank you. So how many FTEs will this new program cost?
Mr. Chair, Senator Draham, I believe that it's about 9.
So the ongoing, I didn't see a fiscal note in our packet.
Mr. Nauman or Mr. Mueller there?
Mr. Chair and Senator Draheim, on some occasions when it is a simple direct appropriation, the appropriation is what is in the amendment. A fiscal note is not required in this particular circumstance because the committee is considering basically a direct appropriation. And the administrative expenses for the agency are pretty clear in what the author is proposing.
Follow-up, Chair? Thank you. So just so I understand, it's a one-time appropriation, but we'll have ongoing costs after the first biennium, or is the 6.7 million going to cover infinity cost of your 9 new employees?
You go ahead, Mr.
Senator
Kelly.
Frentz.
Well, I would just, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Draham. That is the total that the bill proposes to appropriate for those FTEs. Again, the federal grants generally do not go longer in the future than 10 years, many of them 2 years and 5 years. But to your point, we're not promising any base funding, then no ongoing funding for the Competitiveness Fund to the Department of Commerce. This is the total amount of costs.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Friends or Mr. Keller, whoever it is, on the amendment, you have a maximum grant award under subdivision 4 for $300,000. Is that for the technical assistance thing? How much technical, how many are most of these technical assistance things can be a few $1,000s, but 1 or 2 could conceivably be that big?
I thought 300,000 would be more than would be necessary. You may remember, Mr. Chair, that the largest any individual project can be is 15 million. So 300,000 is a larger percentage than we would like to see for the administrative cost. There's an ongoing benefit, though, to some of the technical assistance. Let's just say Scott County had applied for a project and had technical assistance. The thought would be some of the benefit of that technical assistance would be available to Scott County if in 2027 Scott County says, well, now we have a battery storage project.
Okay, it just struck me as a large amount for technical assistance on a project, but okay. Is there further discussion? Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to kind of follow up on Senator Draheim's question, because I think what kind of caught me by surprise was the 9 FTE that we would be expected to hire, and I would ask Senator Dames. Senator Dames, you sit on Commerce. Was the number of FTE needed in this appropriation discussed?
Mr. Chair, I don't believe this has come to Commerce at this point, so it wouldn't have been.
Oh, I want you.
Senator Friends.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Pratt. The Commerce Department for this particular funding goes through the Energy, Utilities, Climate, and Environment Committee where it was heard, and those questions were asked for what it's worth.
Further discussion. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Mueller, you had mentioned that originally the bill had a 5% admin fee. If I take the $6.75 million against the total, I'm coming up with a 5.5, almost 6% admin fee. Is that about right? We're actually seeing an increase in the percentage of funds going to admin?
Mr. Mueller.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Pratt, I haven't done the math quite yet like that, but it is versus the total amount that's being appropriated is 115 million. So of that amount, 6.75 is for technical assistance and administration.
Sorry, we're having a number nerd out up here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any further discussion? Any further discussion on the bill? If not, Senator Frentz moves Senate File 1622 as amended be recommended pass. On that motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. With that, I believe finance for tomorrow has been canceled. We expect to meet next Tuesday. With that, there's no further business, and this meeting is adjourned.
All the administrative stuff is a comment.